let's take a look at some basketball blue bloods in college that are having some fantastic success, which is not easy to do. We talked about this previously. You have to spend about 10 times more to be a successful football program than a basketball program. But we're seeing some basketball programs that we would view as basketball first and maybe only as making a big impact in college football, probably led by North Carolina and Duke. Caleb, is this a trend or is this just something we're seeing for the short term?
Well, obviously we have to see how the season plays out because a lot of teams start out 4-0, 5-0, and then don't finish off in the top 25 because their schedule picks up. I will say that the stat here is that the 6 teams that have spent the most time in history ranked in the AP basketball poll are all ranked in the AP football poll right now, which that's the first time in history that's happened, which is North Carolina, Duke, Louisville, Kansas, UCLA, and Kentucky. I think it's a trend. And I think it's a trend, Dave, because I think there has been a shift among athletic directors at basketball schools who are starting to realize that if you invest in basketball first, your football program collapses. But if you invest in football first, your basketball program can be there and be fine.
No, wait. If you invest in basketball first, well, I mean, Duke and North Carolina invested in basketball first.
No, I don't mean like first, like ever. I mean, like if you prioritize basketball, your football program collapses. If you prioritize football, you'll have, and you do a good job of it at it, you'll have, that will create enough revenue to invest in the basketball program. And you'll be right there with people who are investing in basketball first.
So isn't this what Mark Stoops is going through right now?
It's exactly what he's going through. And by the way,
the donors want their money to go to basketball for the most part in Kentucky, unlike other SEC school, right?
Yeah. It's funny you bring up Mark Stoops because I think the longest tenured AD right now is Mitch Barnhart at Kentucky, and I think he's one of the best. He took over in 2002. Dave, think about it. He hired Rich Brooks in 2003, and then he hired Mark Stoops in 2013. He's actually made more of an effort to invest in Kentucky football than any other athletic director in the past, and it's been a long-term process. Duke, Kevin White was the athletic director who hired David Cutcliffe. Let's be honest, when they hired Cutcliffe, it was very clear they decided we're not going to just ignore football anymore. And then Kevin White retired in 2021. Nina King came in. She is the one who found Mike Elko. She's been very committed to the football program since then. I think it helps that Nina King came from Notre Dame, which obviously is a football first school. And you have my favorite name of all athletic directors, Bubba Cunningham. That just sounds like an offensive lineman on a football team. But
like Jim Bob Cooter.
Exactly. But he's the athletic director at UNC. He took over in 2011, hired Larry Fedora, and then he's hired Mac Brown back, and he got Michael Jordan and the Jordan brand to go all in on even the football program. In Kansas, you saw Jeff Long get hired in 2018, coming from Arkansas. He brought in Les Miles. Now, they both had to go because of a sexual harassment scandal involving Les Miles' tenure at LSU. Not Les Miles himself, but what was happening at LSU. But you saw with that move with Jeff Long, they were like, okay, let's invest more in football. And now they have a new athletic director. His name is Travis Goff, and he's all in on football. So I think you're seeing athletic directors realize that even in Louisville, by the way, I don't know if you guys know this, Louisville has been doing this for 30 years. Dating back to 1991, when they brought in Howard Schnellenberger, Louisville decided, even at the height of the Denny Crum years, we're going to go all in on football. And they built Papa John Stadium in 1998, I think it was. And they have gone all in, and it's been a 30-year process. And what they realized, and what I think they were ahead of the curve of everybody, realizing that if we go heavy into football, basketball will be fine.
Are we beyond the point in the SEC where you take the Doug Dickey approach where you just say, let basketball do whatever it does because it's not the main money driver? I understand you need to invest in football first, but I go back to the story, and I've told this before with you. Terry Fair didn't know who Tennessee was before he saw the Lady Vols. So I think you want men's is a revenue generator, women's is not. I think you want to be good across the board so that you bring in free advertising, because when Lady Vols are in the Final Four, everybody's watching. It's during the men's Final Four weekend on a Saturday. How do they do it? They do it like a Sunday, Tuesday, I believe, as opposed to the Saturday, Monday, the men's. So everybody's watching. That commercial is monster huge. And Terry Fair is one that would have never even known about Tennessee had it not been for the Lady Vols. So I don't think it's that. I think it's more important, but it needs to at least be that. And under Doug Dickey, it wasn't even that at times. He didn't care about style of play. Kevin O'Neill had some success, but it was boring. And they made the Jerry Green hire, which I don't think they did a lot of research on. So, Caleb, it needs to be more than just an advertisement for your school.
Yeah, that time period was a reflection of just, I think Doug Dickey had his own biases and just didn't care about basketball himself. I mean, he's a football guy. I think most good athletic directors, and Doug Dickey was good as a football athletic director, but most athletic directors who were not short-sighted would have cared about basketball then. I think that, yes, I'm not saying don't invest in basketball. You should invest in prior and take other sports seriously. I think the way you should approach this, though, is if we go all in on football, then we can use the excess revenue, particularly with TV networks. Now, all of this changed with the SEC network in 2014. Okay, and the Big Ten network before that. I think athletic directors started to realize that with these television networks, football is going to be the engine that drives the train. We need to go all in on football. Look, I can tell you right now, living up in the DC area, I had a lot of fights with Maryland fans who were mad that Maryland was, and this is a fight you have at basketball schools. They were upset that Maryland was throwing away tradition by leaving the ACC to go joining the Big Ten. And they're like, why would you do that? The ACC is a basketball school, conference, we're a basketball school. And I said at the time, I'm like, look, football's driving this train. And if you want basketball to even be relevant in the future, you need to make the move based on football to the Big Ten. 10 years later, with the ACC about to crumble, it was a genius move for Maryland to do it. It was a genius move for Rutgers to do it. Man, they fleeced the Big Ten, convincing the Big Ten to take them. But I think that, and this is the fight you have. Athletic directors oftentimes have fights at these schools. A lot of times don't want to invest in college football. They don't want to care about it. They don't care if it exists. And I think athletic directors are fighting the battle to say, you guys need to understand that this is the most, I don't care if you were a basketball school, college football is more important. And you have to understand that we have to make our moves based on football.